What's up, guys? It's Monday, December 22nd, and I want to recap the fight of the weekend, which was Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul, Miami, Florida, Netflix, and I got mixed feelings about it, but I'm glad that all is right in the world. Jake Paul got put in his place. Anthony Joshua gets a 6-round knockout. It wasn't the knockout I was expecting. I was expecting more of a brutal blunt force knockout where Jake Paul goes down face first. They might think that he's dead for the first minute or so, and then they wake him up, take him directly to the hospital in an ambulance, and that was it. But it was still a bone-crushing knockout. He broke his jaw. AJ broke his jaw. But it was a mixed performance. AJ did say it was him coming off a 15-month layoff. Jake did run for the first 5 rounds until he got tired. And then in the 5th round, he got dropped twice when his feet started getting heavy because he's never been known for his cardio. And then up at heavyweight again, he's probably a natural cruiserweight. I know he is. I'll give credit to Jake Paul. He did go 6 rounds with the 2-time unified champ, but there's still a lot of criticism warranted for Jake Paul. In the 6 rounds, he showed me nothing that he could box at a high level. He showed me he could move for 5 rounds before he gasses out. He didn't fight to win this fight. He fought to survive. I think he just wanted to last longer than Francis Ngannou did. But with that being said, Francis Ngannou went 2 rounds with Anthony Joshua. But those 2 rounds, he was fighting to try to win that fight. Granted, Francis Ngannou is a legitimate heavyweight, 265. I think he's 2 inches shorter than AJ, but he outweighed AJ in that fight, I believe. But Francis was trying to knock AJ out, where Jake Paul was not. All the talk in the lead up was he's going to slay Goliath. He's going to knock him out. He's got a suspect chin. He's done. That was the hype, right? I knew that was not true. And I believe everyone else who knows boxing knew that was not true. He wasn't going to go in there and try to slug with AJ. And everybody was like, well, he's gonna run and then counterpunch. He's not going to do that. Only Alexander Usyk could do that against Anthony Joshua. Andy Ruiz couldn't do that against Anthony Joshua. Andy Ruiz had to get inside in the pocket and counterpunch and exchange with AJ to get those knockdowns that he did in that win. So all that was nothing but bullshit. I knew that Jake Paul was going to do nothing but try to survive and go longer than Ngannou. He knew he was going to get beat. He knew he was going to get knocked out. I knew he was going to get knocked out. I thought it was going to be earlier, but you could tell in the early rounds that AJ was hunting for the knockout. And everybody knows when you hunt for the knockout, it's harder to land because all you're doing is looking for that one shot. He wasn't setting it up. He wasn't popping the jab, double jabbing them with the right hand after. He wasn't cutting the ring off like he should have early in the early rounds. He was just head hunting and just trying to walk him down to land that big right hand. He did find it in the 6th, but that was after Jake had ran himself out. And he got ripped to the body a few times, ate a couple left hooks and a couple uppercuts that slowed him down. And that's when in the 5th round, he really started to get sluggish. Even my 11-year-old son, we just rewatched the fight. He goes, oh, he looks tired. He's not moving anymore. I go, exactly. He wore himself out moving, and then he ate some good shots to the body and the head from AJ, which is going to slow anyone down. I'll give my credit to Jake Paul, though. He did he tried his best to survive, but he was not in there to win this fight. Make no mistake about it. He was not in there to win this fight. He just wanted to survive. AJ, I think he had a lot of pressure on him to get the knockout, which I think we all knew it was going to come. He was going to win by knockout. It was just what round. Everybody was putting so much pressure, including myself, that he should have got him out of there. But by the 2nd, the latest the 3rd. I thought the latest was going to be the 3rd round, and I thought that was generous. But you could tell that he looked a little like he needed to get his bearings back in the ring. And say what you want, yes, he's a two-time unified heavyweight champion. He hasn't been in the ring in 15 months. And sparring is sparring, but fighting is fighting. And I'm not saying that Jake Paul is a legitimate, contender or like a legitimate top 10 boxer, okay? He is what he is, right? And I'm not going to shit on him too much because he did have the balls to get in there and fight two-time heavyweight champion in AJ, but he's not a real boxer. I think today showed, even if you put him down at cruiserweight and have him fight Badou Jack, Gilberto Ramirez, David Benavidez, he gets absolutely murdered because they're faster, their footwork is better. David Benavidez would be able to cut off the ring within 1 or 2 rounds and get him out of there easily. I think he lasted longer against AJ because of the layoff that AJ had, coming off a knockout, having the whole pressure of boxing on him, knowing that he needs to win by knockout. That's a lot. Even for a seasoned veteran and two-time champion in AJ, that's a lot for him to shoulder. But he still got the job done, even though it was later than everybody thought. It wasn't a great performance. He said it himself. It wasn't a great performance by Jake Paul. If there's some good things that came out of this, was that Anthony Joshua got to reintroduce himself to the American public. There was a lot of people that didn't even know who Anthony Joshua was coming into this fight. The boxing diehards, of course, we know. I've known Anthony Joshua from 10 years ago. But the casual fans didn't know who AJ was. They just thought he was just this big British guy, like built like a Greek god, coming in to fight Jake Paul. Because the last time, if for those of y'all that don't remember or don't recall, the last time AJ fought on American soil was in Madison Square Garden when he got upset. It was probably one of the biggest upsets in boxing history since Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson, by Andy Ruiz. This was supposed to be Anthony Joshua's breakout party in the United States, make his name known. He was the unified heavyweight champion. The only belt he didn't have was the WBC, and Andy Ruiz ruined his parade. He finished him, became the new unified champion at the heavyweight division. AJ did come back a few months later and regain all the titles back, but most people didn't know who AJ was before this past Friday night. So good for AJ. Jake Paul, I'm not going to say it's over. I want it to be like, if he was to get completely destroyed, face down, not moving, gets wheeled out on a stretcher, then it would be over for him. But he actually took the shot and he was still conscious when he went down. And then he got up, he left the ring on his own 2 feet, credit to him. But we're going to see right now if he really loves the sport of boxing, because he did get his jaw broken. And there's a lot of fighters, world champions, who get their jaw broken and they never come back the same again. So we're going to really see if Jake Paul really loves the sport of boxing and who he chooses to come back to, because this is going to be a long recovery, because he's got to let everything heal up, then get back into shape, get back into training, start sparring again, and then we'll see I'll probably see him coming back late, probably fall of next year, if he comes back. And then the question is, who does he come back to? Because now we know he can't fight at the highest level. He's been saying that he's going to be a world champion, that he could knock out AJ. Well, we already knew that was going to happen. And now we've just saw and we're proving that he can't hang at the top level at heavyweight, So who does he come back to? The one that I want to see him fight, just me personally, Darren Till. Darren Till is 3-0 in his last 3 boxing fights, and he's looked great. I would like to see Darren Till versus Jake Paul. They're roughly the same weight. That'd be a good matchup. Nobody wants to see him in KSI. Nobody wants to see him and Tommy Fury again. Like, that doesn't sell. Give him Darren Till. Let him build himself back up. I shit on Jake Paul a lot, but he's done a lot for boxing, especially women's boxing, and he brought boxing to Netflix. I'll give him that credit. I'm not going to just straight up sit up here and just shit on him all day. I will a little bit, but I'm not going to do it just constantly, because he does have some good value to boxing. The Netflix thing was huge. You know, what he's done for women boxing is huge. Do I think he can actually box? No. But he's put in the work and he's trying. But I think I need to see him against somebody his own level. You know, I think those are going to be the fights that are going to build him even more. If he can fight somebody who's around his level and maybe show that he can work through some adversity, come back and get wins, I don't think his time is done yet in boxing. If it is done, will I be mad? Absolutely not. Will I see him fight again? Am I willing to see him fight again against somebody? Yeah, depending on the opponent. If it's Darren Till, absolutely watching. Because I think Darren Till gets him out of there faster than Anthony Joshua does, just being honest. A lot of the names on the list have probably been cut off now. You know, there was talks about him and Canelo. I think Canelo destroys him within 4 or 5. You know, Canelo's not going to take time to get in rhythm, and he's not ever out of the ring for too long. You know, he'd cut off the ring. I mean, that's saying a lot after what happened with the Skull fight, but I believe that he would go in there with the confidence knowing that he can stop Jake Paul. But even that, I don't think Canelo's name might actually be on there. Because I know him and Crawford were probably talking about running the rematch. But now that Crawford's retired, I don't know if that's a negotiation ploy or not. I could see Canelo fighting Jake Paul. Big money, big racks. Do it on September 16th, Mexican Independence Day. Man, I could see that happening for sure. So, yeah, it was a good weekend for boxing. I'm glad that AJ got a good knockout, even though it came later than I expected. Tony Ferguson has his second professional boxing win with the stoppage this weekend at Misfits Boxing. What's his name? Andrew Tate gets beat by somebody I have no fucking clue who it is. So for right now, it seems like all is good in the world in boxing, right? The people who were supposed to win won. The people who were supposed to lose got beat. So yeah, man, I'm pretty content after this weekend. I'm sorry it took so long for me to recap. Had a crazy Friday night, busy Saturday, busy yesterday trying to get last minute gifts for Christmas and things. And so had to work today, went over content, rewatched the fights. So yeah, man, good weekend overall. So yeah, shout out to Anthony Joshua getting the knockout. I will tip my hat to Jake Paul for having the balls to go in there, even though he really didn't show me anything as far as boxing wise, just trying to survive. But yeah, man, that's it for today. For me. I'll probably go over some new things, see if there's any new fight announcements, and I'll break those as soon as I get them. So thank you guys for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.